Again for another state of mind with the one and only Sally McGrath. Sally McGrath has come out another person who is an author. She's got this book called Health That Heals. Health That Heals. Is this good? Is this good, guys? Am I doing justice?
I think it
Health
is.
That Heals. So Health That Heals is so much in it. I've had a chance to speak with Sally quite a while ago, and it was all about working in corporate and what corporate has done to not only herself but to many of us who got enslaved. I'm going to say enslaved here because it does feel like that we've been enslaved in corporations and trying to work our asses off for them, and the amount of things that can happen to you is the burnout that happens. And we're here to talk about burnout because a lot of us have been burnt out in corporations just working real hard, but that doesn't stop there because it happens in our own businesses and small businesses in all types of areas. And here today we'll have Sally McGrath talk about burnout and just the history of how she came about Health That Heals, and a few other things that I'm going to throw a few other curveballs that she may or may not be able to answer, but let's see how this goes. So how are we going, Sally McGrath? Can you tell us more about how you got around to producing this?
Hi, Sandro and Andrew. Thank you for having me on Call Work. Well, what an introduction. Thanks, Sandro. I am an author, and interesting you say that because I was chatting this morning to in a meeting, and people were asking me the same thing. So how did all this burnout stuff start? So I guess like a lot of our businesses that we start, it comes from experience and core skills. I wouldn't call burnout a core skill, but I certainly seemed to do it not once but 3 times. The third time, I actually made some progress, not only to treat it, but to prevent it as well. Sadly, at the cost of a lot of other elements in my life, but nonetheless, here I am. I've come through and burnout free and managing to maintain my burnout free life and supporting those to live the same way too, as well. The book came about, it was actually the second part of the burnout story. So I burnt out. I'm not a person that can sit still. So I thought, okay, while I'm recuperating and restoring and putting myself back together, as I call it, what am I going to do? So I actually started studying. And health had always been a key part of my world, physical fitness, good nutrition, etc. And then I finally started to put that missing piece, that third piece together, which was actually getting myself together. I could use another S word, but getting myself together, and really starting to pull apart the areas of my life that were impacted by burnout. So, and that's where I started studying, as I said, to formalize these health qualifications and interest. And that's where I then created a program for myself. So I'm my first guinea pig all those years ago to prevent and also to treat, I should say, and then prevent burnout. The book was the second part of it, and the book is essentially the story of what happened to me. So literally, as I call it, transforming your life before it's too late. And I really had to make some tough decisions, which all I elaborate on in the book. So there was some pretty dark moments, but out of it all, it's become a really, really enlightening and positive experience. So, and I'm just really fortunate that people come to me for support and treatment and guidance to live a burnout-free life. So,
can you share some of those feelings, the feelings of going through burnout? What were some of the things that were, as you're going through burnout, what were some of the feelings that came about?
Or
Yeah.
what are some of the things that we can look out for and look out for other people, because we tend to get stuck being emotional about it or being trapped in our own minds or our own sort of world that we don't really get to see other people burning out. That's just some of the things that do happen.
Definitely. Both, really good questions, Andrew and Sandro. So burnout is an excessive level of stress and pressure that someone experiences. And what I find, and certainly with me, it doesn't happen in 5 minutes. It's something that happens over weeks, months, and in a lot of cases over years. So the behaviours that are created and the habits that come from those behaviours start to culminate in the acute stress levels that you experience when you're going through a burnout phase. So it's I call it the burnout spiral. So you start, you might not be sleeping well, you might be intolerant of colleagues at work, family, friends, kids especially, even in your own business situation like you guys are. You can become intolerant to small tasks that you need to do that usually you could do really quickly, easily. Everything becomes a burden. And this becomes an ongoing cycle, and it crosses through your work, through your business, into your relationships. You have no desire to do things that you used to enjoy. Socializing becomes really, really hard work, and you tend to retreat. Really, really short attention span is another sign of burnout. And very, very impatient is also a key sign. There's often a link from burnout to depression, and there is what's called burnout-related depression. So it's that cycle that you go through thinking, oh, this is just relentless. When's it going to end? I'll just get a good night's sleep. It'll be better tomorrow. And that is not going to change. It's just going to go on and on and on. So does that answer your questions, guys? Somewhat. I could wax lyrical for hours.
There seems to be a lot of things there, and I've noticed a lot of the things that you mentioned from other people as well, and especially the part where people start retreating and because they don't have that energy to cope, and the coping mechanisms are sort of gone because you no longer have the coping mechanisms around you, and the only thing that does happen is your own body is trying to tell you to sort of back off from a lot of things. And one of the biggest things I think was for me, and when I know I've burnt myself out, is when I sleep for a number of days, and it's longer times instead of a shorter period of time of being able, because I normally sleep short amount of times, anything from 5 to 7 hours. I know some people are going to say that's not good, but I meditate enough to sort of get myself to a specific level. But if I'm then sleeping a lot longer than that these times, I am now my body's telling me to sleep and sort of recuperate and get back my energies. And some of these things could be from stress levels from different people, or different things that's currently happening in my life, or being affected by so many different things. Like what you mentioned, there's kids, there's people, there's expectations from other people, and things are just happening left, right, and center, and you're sort of out of control. You're sort of spiraling in and out, and you've gone into this dark pit of all these thoughts and everything else, and it's become a habit, right? That you start when you look up just to see where the light is, you tend to sort of try and figure out where you are. And the hardest part is for a lot of people is finding that first step. So do you have tips on a few steps to sort of get back into just a few tips? Because I know there's a ton of tips, and you've got all these experiences behind you of how to sort of get back into changing these habits. What are the few tips that you can give to people who are watching this video right now, just to take that first step?
And that's a really good point, Sandro, because that's the hardest. That is really the hardest. by the time you've acknowledged that there is something fundamentally wrong, you've no doubt tried, interesting you said before, coping mechanisms. And one that I see frequently is alcohol.
Guilty.
Yeah, guilty. I used it to escape, and then 3 coffees before, 6 in the morning to, fix the other effect or the other impact.
Get back up.
So a couple of things that you can do is, number one, acknowledge it and just say, maybe it's burnout, and find somebody, even a friend, a GP, just somebody to actually listen to you and not comment, not have an opinion, not tell you anything to do, just listen. And maybe you need to say that. Often in the first session with my clients, I say, how are you going? And there is just all this information that comes out. So it's really important just to find someone that you can confide in and say, look, I just need to download. This is all just spinning around my head. I'm not coping, and literally purge it. So that would, and I know it sounds really simple, but that is one of the best ways that you can start to unravel before you can then start to, as I call, reframe behaviours, habits, and go through the process. So yeah, that's definitely one simple step. Number 2 is just go and sleep, disconnect from everything and go and sleep. Without sleep, as you guys well know, you just can't function. And if that's for 3 hours, 3 days, so be it. It doesn't, everyone's different, as you mentioned, Sandra, everyone's sleep needs are different. In burnout, you could sleep for 2 days. I know I slept for about 3 days on and off, waking up for an hour here, an hour there. But in the third final wave, I slept for 3 days before I even thought, okay, I'm ready to open my eyes now. So I think, download, literally, just empty your head in a no judgment zone and sleep.
Even that for because there's so many things going through your head. You're thinking so far out as well about, got to do this, I've got to do that, got to chase up, call this person, call that. I can't sleep now. I can't do that. I've got all these things to get done. So that's where we're sort of like, how do we slow down? How do we slow down to speed up? It's one of the things that we've been saying recently. And we've got so Phil Watson there says the world needs more Sallys. Burnout should be at school level. So Sal seeds early. Do you have any thoughts around that?
Absolutely, Phil. I saw your question come in, and I'm cheering for that. It's honestly, if we taught burnout's just one of them, but better health practices in schools from a young age, we wouldn't have what we've got now. Absolutely. I'm not saying it would eradicate it, far from it, but I think there would be such awareness, because that's the challenge. There's no awareness. So educating, kids are probably hearing the word burnout frequently now, and I think it's time to have that conversation with kids. It's not good to work until you drop. We've been conditioned, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Those before us have done the best they can, but we've got this conditioning to work till you drop, sleep when you're dead, all these phrases and vernacular that come into our communication that are driving this behaviour. Like I said, I get very passionate about it and really want that to change. So I think from an educative level, and that is something I'm working on in another project, from an educative perspective. So absolutely, Phil, I agree.
And Liam's got a question there. Best way to have a conversation with someone that looks like they are burnt out, but they refuse to believe it.
Oh, that's a tough one, right? Because they're blocking everything that you're trying to help them. But how do you help someone who doesn't want to be helped?
And that's again, Liam, thank you. Brilliant question and really good insight there. I think avoiding the words burnt out and stressed out and any of those potentially negative connotations that could be received that way. So really being careful of language use is the way to frame that conversation. Maybe more asking what I would call open-ended questions. So not just how are you, the default reaction there or response is good. Asking questions like, how did...
I'm fine.
Exactly. Andrew, I'm fine, good, yep. And what about you? The flip, you get the flip. Oh, good, thanks, how are you? And make it all about the other party, so the deflection. Asking those open-ended questions of, how was your morning? What have you been up to? And really continue to ask questions in relation to what subject matters are coming up. Oh, how did you react to that? Because then you'll start to see, you might see some frustration. You might see some
resistance.
Exactly.
People like trying to resist. No, that's not me. It can't be.
Yep. Yep, exactly, Sandro, totally. So any sign you see there, Liam, with resistance or reaction, especially, and it could be an explosive reaction. What are you talking about? I'm fine. Could be a really good lead into eventually having that conversation about getting some support. I hope that helps, Liam.
No, that was great. That was a great explanation. And Phil, in cars, burnouts are illegal, so it should be. Yeah.
100%, Phil.
So burnouts make it illegal.
Not unless it's in an Aston Martin and it's been done really quick. And well, yeah, let's not.
Maybe not.
Liam says spot on.
Oh, my pleasure, Liam. Hope that, helps if you've got someone that's struggling.
And Joe, education of burnout to children will be so beneficial in helping families cope with a member going through it. Never underestimate how children can assist if they only knew how.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So again, awareness and having those conversations.
Yep, definitely. And I mean, kids are smart. I mean, I think sometimes they're smarter than me. I won't say us because I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I hear conversations and I think, hang on, run that by me again. It's I love it. You can learn so much from all ages. But yes, I do think having that conversation with kids, not hiding it, if a parent is really, really exhausted, explain it as best you can. Don't lie. Don't try and, I'm fine. But just be honest. Yep, mum or dad or, your aunt or your sister or someone is absolutely exhausted. It could be burnout. And do you know what burnout is? And having those conversations.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that what you mentioned there is really important, to not really lie to our children, because our children will catch on. And in the end, our children will end up sort of building resentment or trying to figure out in the end what's real and what's not real. And we just need to be honest with our children about a lot of things. And I think we hide a lot of things from our children, and especially burnout. Like it's you're really at the end of what you can do. You can't do anymore after you're really burnt out. You practically shut down. So if we're shut down, we're not going to be able to do anything. But if we can explain these things and build awareness around it, like what you mentioned with building awareness and getting this even around the country, it's something that we need to have that honest conversation about, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And I agree with Lisa there. She said burnouts in kids, absolutely 1,000%, Lisa, sadly. And again, it comes back to that conditioning. Kids are, as the expression goes, kids learn what they see. And if we're behaving in a burnout state and saying it's okay, then we're just educating them to say it's okay to, continue that and perpetuate the issue. It's really, it really needs to start now, with parents, with families, with anyone who has influence over children. You're an aunt, you're a sister, you're a cousin, you're a a confidant. I think it's important to start young. In fact, there's some great work that I'm doing with another startup business in Victoria, and we're starting to educate kids from the grassroots as well with general health and well-being, and really integrating that burnout message. So yeah,
I love that, because then there's even these expectations put on kids that I've seen in the years that passed. Kids have been expected to have these grades, or have this expectations that their own parents never had, or like they're pushing everything across to their own kids. And it's kind of sad to see, because I've seen some really horrific endings from that, and it needs to stop, and we need to really just do something about it. And we need to have this conversation at this level, as well as having it at that grassroots, as what you mentioned, and just to normalize the conversation that it's okay to talk about these things.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, kids are going to be, probably have been immediately one of the first areas of your life to suffer if you're burnt out, because your tolerance is zero. So if a kid asks you a question, an innocent question, I'm hungry, when's dinner? And normally you'd answer that and go, oh yeah, I'm cooking dinner, we'll have la la la.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that question again. Not even bring that question up.
Okay, maybe it's an extreme example.
Yeah.
But when you
when's dinner? Tomorrow.
Every night.
Yeah.
But when you are in that state, with nothing left to give, it's like, oh, dinner, go get it yourself. Go, Uber Eats, off you go. if you're lucky. So it's those little things that impact kids so much. Maybe I'll use another example. A child asks you a question, and you're in the middle of your work, and it's an innocent question. It's actually a really good question, and you turn around and you're like, go away, you've interrupted me, and you just snap, and that really hurts. And that's when often I hear people saying, my relationships are compromised because of my behavior towards that person. It's not anything that the individual's done. It's the person not owning their behavior, and where they're sitting in a burnt out state.
Oh, accountability. You brought the accountability into the conversation. Oh, geez. A lot of you guys listening. Accountability.
But that's a big one too, because I'm guilty of it too, reacting to the kids. But at the same time, it's kind of like, no, hang on, that, like picking up on them and going, hang on, I shouldn't have done that. Realizing it, how can I be better in this situation?
Yeah, and even having that conversation, I'm really sorry, I'm feeling very stressed. It wasn't about you, and just they're sensitive, they're kids, they get it.
Yeah.
In that example, but yeah, and that word accountability, I love that word, and that's a fundamental in all of this, in making change, yes, in actually treating burnout, and then absolutely in preventing it, because accountability is where you will get the consistency and remain burnout free.
Oh, I love that. I'm sure Andrew has not even.
Yeah, I was just looking at it's just flowing, just letting it go. But we will start to wrap up. I mean, Phil's got last one from me: treat corporate life like pizza. Other slices: give time to yourself, travel, take time off, go and experience another, learn a new language, volunteer. It's kind of
exactly.
Yeah, great suggestions, Phil. Actually, Phil, have you been through my program?
He's probably looking at it right now.
You're a champion.
But if people want to know more, where can they find you, Sally?
Find me, my website, healththatheals.com.au, and that will actually, I've got a beautiful new website going live imminently through Andrew at Integris Digital. So another amazing guy I've been working with, business owner, and knows Joe. And so that's going live. Email me, sally@healththatheals.com.au, or phone me for those of you that would like to actually have a chat. And you can find my number on the website, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you can, where you feel comfortable connecting.
Perfect.
Oh,
Well, thanks for one more. What is it? Burnout due to academic burden in kids in Korea is truly a problem.
Absolutely, that's happening everywhere. So it's just, I reckon that's become a pandemic. We talk about pandemic. There's a pandemic that's happening throughout our society today. But I can talk more about that. We'll have a better conversation around this subject when are we having it? In a month's time. Am I allowed to announce this, Andrew?
No, we'll talk to Sally off air about the dates. We're getting it all formalised and all, but
we haven't got the dates. We're saying next month, but it's like. But anyway, guys.
Anyway, we'll take it offline. It's for the catch up after. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Sally. Thanks for your time, and thanks for coming on State of Mind.
Phil, Lisa, Liam, Joe, everyone there.
And thanks for joining the chats.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Great to see so much awareness about burnout too, and good questions and comments. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
We'll bring more of this into the streams and bring more into it in many different workspaces. So stay tuned. All right. Thanks again.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.